Good evening. The hour of 6 p.m. having arrived, I will call to order this regular meeting of the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee. The meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keens YouTube channel and channel 1302. The video is also streamed on the city's website and posted on the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Copies of the printed agenda are available in the wall pockets as you entered the meeting room. The public and other city councilors will be recognized to ask questions and comment on agenda items under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. I will not recognize an individual a second time until everyone who wishes has had a chance to speak. Anyone who wishes to address the committee is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room and identify themselves by name and address prior to speaking. Written comments from the public will be accepted at the city clerk's office until Tuesday at 1 p.m. I will now call to order this regular meeting of the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee and declare a quorum present. I hope everyone has had a chance to review our agenda this evening. I do have a slight modification. I'm going to move item number 5, which is our continued discussion by Councillor Robert Williams on the policy on discharging of fireworks. We do have a conflict, and our fire marshal is here and wants to speak with us on this, and he needs to leave. So we're going to hear this item first. Rick, do you want to join us up at the table? And I would just like to start to address everyone by letting you know that this is an ongoing conversation. We did start, I think, at the end of last year, discussing a revisit of this after we've received multiple requests to have fireworks displays at an individual location. It tends to be one particular location in town, so that area of town bears the brunt of these displays, but it could be at other locations. It could happen similarly, so we want to address our policy on how to minimize the impact to different neighborhoods. Councillor Williams, do you want to talk about your letter a little bit to get us started?
Yeah, the purpose of the letter was basically to figure out, what our policy was going to be. Last year at Alumni Field, there were 4 requests for fireworks displays, and it was later determined that one of those was actually a non-commercial fireworks display, or there was some concern that we are suddenly having a situation where non-commercial fireworks displays are basically competitive with commercial fireworks displays, and therefore there's and I think this loophole may have been solved, and maybe you have some information for us on that, but there was a concern that it was a loophole to get out of regulation for needing a permit for these displays. And there's a number of reasons why I think it's important to recognize that there's an impact to fireworks in our community, both positive and negative. I enjoy 4th of July just as much as everyone else. When it's the 2nd of October or the, 3rd of August, maybe not so much. One of my concerns is particularly the environmental impact. We're very fortunate to live in a place with lots of wild and wonderful critters. Had a turkey vulture hanging out on a tree outside my house the other day. When you start having explosions in the air, all those critters get scared off, and we have, less of the environment that we like to appreciate here. And there's also issues concerning domestic animals. Horses and dogs get scared by this, and it affects people too. 2 particular populations are people with autistic people can have sensory issues with the fireworks, and also that affects some of our veterans with PTSD. So these are all, a set of concerns we have about fireworks that makes it, I think, a good idea to look at, making it so maybe we don't have so many shows in one place, and that the impact is spread around the city rather than just at Alumni Field. So that's my summary.
Yeah, that's great synopsis. I know I spoke with Rick Wood earlier in the week about that loophole, and do you want to give us an update on what changes have happened at the state level.
Sure. Rick Wood, Fire Marshal, Building and Health Official for the city. Thank you for having me. I just want to kind of do a short recap of what we've kind of had for challenges. When this first came up, one of the concerns, my only real concern is how do we actually enforce it? So if we have a rule, how can we make it so that the rule can actually be enforced? And that's really the focus that I have. So as we had the discussion, one of the big questions came between our ordinance where it essentially says consumer fireworks can be shot without a permit, and yet we were having consumer fireworks shows at certain locations that were shot by an actual licensed shooter. So they were done more for display than consumer, and those are the two nuances in the regulation. So very recently, the state has made a change to the administrative rules that talks specifically about the use of permissible fireworks by other than consumers. And that's captured in Administrative Rule Safe C 2607.6. And you can look that up on the state's website as well, on nh.gov, and go to Administrative Rules. That's SAFE, SAF-C 2607.6. And they added a new subsection under that, subsection H. And the value of this is it requires that anyone shooting consumer fireworks other than the consumer, meaning a display, will be required to have a certificate of competency, the same certificate that's issued to a licensed display. So that makes it much easier for us to kind of figure out who falls under a licensing requirement and who doesn't. And I think that provides what we need to have you folks look at the policy decision regarding how do we manage any limitations if you feel that necessary.
Wonderful. So in advance of this meeting, I also spoke with our city attorney and gave her some guidance about what I thought might be reasonable language to consider. And I offered that to the committee today. There were some concerns that came up to me as I gave this some thought. One of which that I'd like the committee to discuss tonight is what is an appropriate number of times per calendar year that we would be comfortable seeing a display happen on a particular location. And the second is how do we issue those permits? So my fear was that one particular license holder might come in and request all of them, and that there wouldn't be some sort of practice that we were able to look at all of the requests for potential displays over the course of a year at the location at one time and more fairly distribute permits. I would like to figure out if there's a way to give deference to the 4th of July celebration to make sure that we can honor that tradition in our community, but that we don't necessarily give just one person all the permits that are available at one location, especially if there are other people that are interested in holding events or displays there. So I don't know if anyone from the committee has had a chance to read over the language that's here. I don't know if anyone has any comments that we'd like to make concerning. Yeah, Councilor Jones?
Thank you. Just a question on how do you define location? Because I know one year we had some fireworks displays at Alumni Field, and there are also 3 weddings at the Country Club, Keene Country Club, which is only a block and a half away. That was the thing for a while. People at weddings wanted to have fireworks, and we also allowed that. Would that be considered one location, or is that 2 locations?
I think the only way to be able to discern a location is really to use the parcel map, which would essentially be tied to ownership. There's no way for us to say region, for example, so I think location would be tied to a city parcel. And that's logical because the requirement is that the owner of the land has to give permission anyway. So one thing to consider is that this is, one of the things people coming before you will have to do is prove that they have permission of whoever's in control of the land, and maybe they're the gatekeeper, if you will, of number of times on their property and who gets the first or the last.
Okay. Oh, one second, Councilor. Yes, Councilor.
And you're right, I think that is the only way to do it, but what I was getting is, it's affecting the same neighborhood.
Right.
And I didn't know if there was a way around that, that's all. That's why I was asking, thank you.
Yeah, I can't contemplate one myself, so it's difficult.
Thank you.
Councilor Haas?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think there's two things we want to get to here. The overall goal is to limit the number of fireworks displays that we license over the course of the year. We can't limit the consumer licenses done, or there are no consumer licenses. Consumers can shoot off whatever they can at any time they want. But anybody who wants to get a license for insurance purposes or for other appropriate permitting purposes and use of a location has to come and get a license. We can limit the number of licenses that we give over the course of the year. That's one goal of what we're trying to do here. As far, we might put 4th of July and, put a circle on the calendar that's always a stake in the ground. That would always get a license. And the group that might want that license can change from year to year, but we can nail that on the calendar. But if we limit the number of licenses, and we can debate what, 5, 3, or 8, whatever that number would be, is appropriate, then we can work into how we can distribute those licenses in a fair manner. Whether that be a lottery of some sort, or we'll start with the number of licenses we want to give out over the course of the year, and then see how we can distribute them fairly. The second thing is I'd like to have a time frame around it, and you've suggested there's a May 1st in here. I think that came up just as an idea. So we need some feedback from the people who contract for fireworks as to what their timing is that they need to contract it, so we could give them a license in time. And second, if we can maybe create licenses need to be applied for by and will be issued then by. That would give people a fair chance at obtaining those licenses, and then we could be responsive to actually when they need them. So there's a lot of work to be done with that as far as the number of events over the course of the year. I can't ever see more than 5. I'm much more partial to something like 3. And then we'll figure out how to fairly distribute them.
So, Councilor Haas, just to have a clear understanding, so you're suggesting that that number be citywide
Yes,
and not location?
Not location, no.
Okay.
I mean, at my first brush and first thinking in this process, yeah, because we know that they tend to focus on one place, although they could, who knows, Home Depot may want to have a celebration for some reason. And, if they fairly apply for a license and there's one available, so be it.
So I just want to further clarify. So would you be comfortable if we said 5 licenses over the course of a season in the municipality, only 3 at any one given location?
that-
Something like that? would
Something
make
like that could be cool, yeah.
sense? Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Councilor Williams?
Just to say what Councilor Haas says, sounds good to me.
Okay. Councilor Madison, anything to add? No? So we're sort of moving in the right direction. So I think the city attorney does have a copy, obviously, of the draft that we were looking at and some starts of some revisions possibly that make sense. Great. All right, does anyone from the public wish to speak on this? All right, seeing none, I would ask for a motion. Councilor Williams, we don't have a recommended motion because we weren't sure how this was gonna go. Do you want to try to craft something, or do you want me to wing it?
I think you'd be better at winging it than I would.
Okay.
Could I just,
Councilor
question?
Haas?
Thank you, Chair. Just, City Attorney, is there anything else you might want us to give you guidance on, other than what we've just said?
If you're happy, I'm happy. Just probably on the process and what the motion's gonna be, I was gonna wait to hear what you were gonna say. If that's to have me draft it, I go back to the comment you had made about wanting a little bit more information from the people seeking the license. Where, I'm not gonna be getting that information. I assume that would be in the committee setting, we'd hear from them. So would you be wanting a draft from me to come in, and then that's when we would collect information from people seeking the licenses?
I, just thinking off the top of my head again, I think if you leave out the number of times, the question about location, that's subject to debate that we can fill in at a later time, but to give us the structure to work with.
So I would say, more concisely, I would be comfortable saying that we want to limit it to 5 times throughout the city over the course of a year and a maximum of 3 times per location. And I don't know if there's any background research that we could do just to make sure that we're giving enough time frame for people to have a date to apply for the license. But I don't think we're going to see necessarily an onslaught of people coming into the meeting to debate that. So I think we would be on the hook to figure that out and what we were comfortable with. City manager?
Just a suggestion, if it wasn't up to the property owner, so if it's your property and you come in someone comes in for a license, if we were to notify the property, you're limited to 3 at this location, they could decide what 3 to put forward at any time of the year they want, but they would also run the risk of the total of 5 being met. But I think if we communicated that back out, it would leave that decision up to the property owner, who they grant permission to, and as long as they knew they could only grant permission to up to 3.
Okay,
Easier way, maybe.
that sounds fine to me. Okay,
That works.
Counselor Jones?
Can I ask, who would be policing this? Would it be the clerk's office?
Well, the licenses would have to come to our
Yeah,
committee still.
they
Every one
would
of them.
still come through your committee process, and we would track it in that way.
But at some point, somebody would say, we've already had 5, you can't apply anymore.
I think that we would need to change our permit to add some additional language when you change the ordinance, just to make it clear on the permit that, and the license that they're applying for, that there is a limitation.
And if I'm correct, I believe we were told that there is no application. It's through the state, correct? Isn't that what we were told?
Yeah, there is, as part of this update, and again, when you're doing permissible or non-permissible, there is a requirement to apply to both the state, and that requires notification and sign-off at the fire department. So we will be aware of, and that timeline, just for your edification, is only a few days. So we wouldn't be pigeonholing anybody into a specific timeline if you said, it
So
takes
where I was
30 days.
going is, I think you already answered it, is so we don't need our own application process.
Well, you do for your license, and I think that's through the clerk already. So if there's something that we can do to indicate how many shows have already been there, if you do it based on calendar year, then just how many shows have been there prior to this application being put on the license would probably satisfy, your need.
Thank you.
So, do we feel like we are comfortable having the city attorney draft something for first reading? Or do we want it to come back here?
First reading.
Okay, so I would make a motion to recommend that the city attorney draft an ordinance with PLD's recommendations presented to council for first reading.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion by the chair, seconded by Counselor Madison. Any questions on that motion? Anyone from the public? Seeing none, I would ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you, and I think you're going to make it to your meeting on time. All right, so now we're going to get back on track. Our item number 1 on our agenda tonight is the Pathways for Keens request for use of city property for the 4 on the 4th road race. And we have Rebecca Landry here, and did we have the, I think I had a note that do we have the petitioner here as well? Janelle? Oh,
Rebecca Landry, Deputy City Manager. I have been attending the event protocol meetings, so I'll just provide you a quick summary of what the city is doing and then turn it over to Ted. So the Pathways for Keene 4 on the 4th road race is Friday, July 4th. July 4th is on a Friday this year. It's from 6 to 11 a.m. It's basically a running race with approximately 700 runners and walkers, about 1,200 total attendees when you include the spectators. And the race will start at 7:30 in the morning. Very briefly, there are partial closures of Railroad Street, Community Way, and 93rd Street, and then a small section of the service road for Wells Street, for the Wells Street Garage. And there will be a detour at Railroad Street and 93rd. So the sponsor is notifying impacted parties that for the event date, such as the Co-op, the Marriott, the Next Level Church, others who may be impacted by any road closures. There will be 10 to 20 race marshals requested by the city at various locations, which we appreciate very much. The sponsors are arranging for private traffic control at Water Street at the bike path because obviously everyone's safety is paramount. And there will be traffic controllers at Eastern Ave, one at the bike path and one at the Marlborough Street intersection. Just very briefly add that the police department is going to be at the start and the finish for security reasons. They will clear the course and communicate with the race director immediately prior to the start of the race. Fire department is also involved in the protocol process. They'll be providing 1 ambulance within the race footprint. And I just also want to mention that Public Works and Parking are also very much involved in the protocol process and preparing for and supporting the event, which we think is great.
Okay, great, thank you. And Ted, welcome.
Yeah, no further questions. And no fireworks either, by the way.
I know a lot of we don't have any requests for downtown fireworks.
Right.
So Ted, can you just introduce us to
Sure.
who you are and then tell us a little bit about the request?
Yeah, no, Ted McGreer, 115 Main Street, Keene. This is the 23rd annual 4 on the 4th road race. Every dollar we raise goes back to the trail system. We're a 100% volunteer board. We have our president here, Janelle Sartorio. I'm the vice president of the board. Started this race in 2001, and it's really grown into a nice summer community event, and we're grateful for the licenses over the years to have a community event on that day. So.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you so much for that
You bet.
synopsis. Counselor Jones, I think you usually give us a tally, a running tally. Doesn't this event raise money for our Pathways for Keene?
First of all, full disclosure, I am a board member of the Pathways for Keene, and that is on file on my statement of interest in the clerk's office. But there's no pecuniary interest.
I think you may need to recuse yourself from the vote in that interest if you're a sitting member of the board.
That's why I brought it up.
So without, if I don't see.
I'll request a recusal, that's so.
Great, thank you,
And
Counselor.
if nobody objects, then there's no need for a vote.
Yep. I don't see any objection, so I'm gonna let you sit this one out.
Okay.
But before you go, do you happen to know off the top of your head what this race has raised? I feel like in years past, we've discussed it.
I believe we talked about last year, we went over the $1 million mark, and there's more ways. We're having one of our best years at the board this year, between working with the various gambling, and we got some great, what was it, Ted, what was? I think we got $100,000 from one source, and then there's another. We just found out about
Yeah.
$2.5 million from somebody else.
Yeah,
And
Putnam Foundation was one of them. And yeah, the charitable gaming casinos have really helped us a lot. But the race generates about $40,000 to $45,000 per year. 200 sponsors, local businesses that sponsor the race. And gosh, we have a big party. We have a big, hot dog eating contest at the end and a dance contest. And it's an event, live music, and people have a blast.
Yeah, and
So-
over 23 years, that's a considerable amount of money that's been able to be donated back to the community, which is
Yes.
wonderful.
And that is our biggest fundraiser of the year, and
Yep.
and it all comes back to the city. One of the few festivals in town where all the dollars come back to the city.
Right.
All right, so do we have anyone from the committee who has any questions for Mr. McGeer? All right, seeing none. Do we have anyone from the community that would like to speak about this? All right, Seeing none, I would ask for a motion. Counselor Williams.
Move to recommend the city council grant permission to Pathways for Keene to sponsor a running race on Friday, July 4th, 2025, subject to the signing of a revocable license and indemnification agreement and the submittal of a certificate of liability insurance in the amount of $1 million, listing the city of Keene as an additional insured. In addition, the police department shall identify Railroad Street immediately adjacent to Railroad Square as a no parking zone from the hours of 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. This license is conditional upon the petitioners providing an adequate number of volunteer race marshals to ensure runner safety along the course and subject to any recommendations of city staff. The petitioners agree to absorb the cost of any city services over and above any amount of city funding allocated in the fiscal year 26 community events budget. Said payment shall be made within 30 days of the date of invoicing.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Williams, seconded by Counselor Haas. Any questions on that motion? Anyone from the public? See, Counselor Madison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say, I think this year I'm going to actually run it. So I wanted to say it here on the public record, so I forced myself to actually
Do we
do
want
it.
to add that to the motion?
Yes, yeah.
All right, seeing no
Good
further
timing.
comment,
Registration costs went up this year, so good timing.
I would ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank
One
you.
recusal.
One recusal, yes. Noted. All right, our item 2 on our agenda this evening is the Keene Pride Festival's request for use of city property, the Pride Festival for September 21st, 2025. And I think we have Adam here with us
Yes, Adam
tonight.
Topfer.
Adam Topfer, yes, thank you. Do you want to introduce your letter to us and let us know what your request is?
Sure. So I didn't bring the actual letter, but I'm
It's
sure you
okay.
have it in front of you.
We do.
This is going to be our 4th year during the Keene Pride Festival. It has grown like crazy. Last year we had over 115 booths within Central Square. So we have gotten to a point where we need to expand. So we were going around the circle twice, and then we were doing it again in the middle, and it's just getting too much. So we're requesting that we expand down Main Street. We would stop the festival just south of Railroad Street, but I believe the city would still need to close streets down to, I believe, Ted's, that area, yeah. And we also would like to extend the festival by 1 hour. So in past, it's been going from noon to 6 p.m. We'd like to bring it to 7 p.m. And that's because of the amount of programming that we have. We just can't fit it all into 6 hours.
Okay, sounds like a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And I think we have Rebecca back to speak to us about the city.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick synopsis. I should have let Ted go first.
It's okay.
The road closures will be Central Square this year and portions of Washington Street, Court Street, Roxbury Street, West Street, Main Street, Railroad Square, and Railroad Street. So the event is a little bigger, and that's great. There will be a detour for all northbound traffic on Main Street at Emerald Street, as you just mentioned. There are quite a few barricades and other equipment and put in various locations to ensure that traffic and pedestrian safety do not collide, and that there are no vehicles in the footprint. There will be, the Public Works Department, among many other tasks, will be putting up detour signage in the morning. The Police Department is assisting with traffic control. They're going to be putting out press release and other information about all the road closures, parking restrictions, the detours, and they will provide officers from setup to clean up. Parking Services is posting, of course, no parking signs in advance of the event. Interestingly, we used to put these on parking meters. We used to say, put something on top of the meter or attached to the meter saying there won't be, this parking won't be available on date such and such, but now we're putting that on kiosks and pay stations, and it's a little different. The Fire Department is providing personnel from 11 a.m. to clean up until the streets are reopened. There will be fire personnel at the turning lane on Main Street near the flagpole. There have been issues there in the past when we stop traffic at that point, so we'll have people there to help avoid any problems there. And they will have a fire engine at Emerald Street and Eagle Court. The Community Development Department and Parks and Recreation are also providing support for this event.
Great, thank you. So not event-related, but Public Works-related. I would just like to point out that the council has made an effort to move away from using some of the heavier equipment. I don't know if we will be in a position to be able to use barriers instead of equipment in the near future for our festivals this year, but I would love to see that start to happen as soon as we can.
I would just say that there are pros and cons with that. The equipment allows us to close and reopen much more quickly. Setting up barriers are typically done way in advance and stored in the downtown area and some of the parking places. And so we've talked about that in regards to the downtown project and use of, different barriers, but I would not say that's something that we're doing right now.
Okay.
Could I ask, or speak to that real
Yes.
quick? When it comes to Keene Pride, we actually would prefer the large equipment for safety reasons. I think the large equipment works better as a barrier between vehicles and
And people.
people. And, the nature of a Pride event, we are a target, unfortunately, for some people that want to cause harm. And so I would much prefer to see these large tractor, these big vehicles in between them and in between the vehicles and people.
Yes, understood.
Yep.
Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Haas.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a thought on the vehicles and the defensive. Is there a specification of the weight and size of the vehicle? And I'm sure there is.
These are the very large dump
Very
trucks.
large.
There's your specification.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there might be an opportunity for private contractors to have their vehicles used in this stead and get some advertising for it,
Not a bad idea.
a response.
Yes and no. We make sure that our fire department employees, staff can move these vehicles quickly if needed, and that's one of the reasons we use city vehicles. In addition to that, we do have the conversation about whether it should be the big concrete barricade or a movable barricade or a city vehicle, and paramount to this conversation is always what is the safest for the attendees and anybody downtown. So we try to use whatever, as minimal as necessary, but make sure that minimum safety requirements are met.
Councillor Haas.
Thank you. So I'll take it on myself to find opportunities for using other privates and make sure it's acceptable to everybody, if possible. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you. Adam, I'm thinking back to the first time you ever came to us, and I questioned you on the timing, on the time of year of you doing this, and you proved it right. I just wanted to say thank you. You made this a true success. Thank you for what you did.
It's me and a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah.
There's some incredible people right now. Jean is with me over here, one of the original board members. But, we have over 100 volunteers and some really incredibly dedicated board members that make this happen.
And it shows. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Yes, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jay Kahn, Mayor. What I'm about to say really doesn't affect this event because of the amount of the Main Street that is going to be closed off. It doesn't require vehicles to be stationed in front of some of our downtown vendors. But I would point out that when there are partial shutdowns, I've just got to represent some of the comments I've gotten from vendors who have large vehicles parked in front of their stores, which inhibit the view and opportunity for people to see, oh, there's a women's clothing store in that location. So not a problem in this one because of the extent to which the entry streets into downtown are not going to be accessible. But in case you are thinking about other partial shutdown in the downtown streets in the future, I'd like you to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Yes, and Adam, I don't want to hijack your request with this whole conversation
okay,
that
yeah.
is
It's-
unrelated, but, and it's really an MSFI conversation. I know that it started there already. When we do the downtown project, there has been some conversation had about how do we do these closures appropriately and aesthetically and safely as possible. You know, I think the use of million-dollar equipment
Yeah.
becomes, you know, anxious for those of us that have to authorize the city manager to buy new equipment if something were to be damaged, and that is true. And, you know, and also, when Santa's coming to town, like, it's not like the atmosphere
Yeah,
with the
sure.
dump trucks and
I
the
mean,
things to
I
have.
would love to see during this reconstruction, something installed that, you know, maybe can lift out of the street or whatever it is. There's got to be something out there.
You've taken the words
that-
out of my mouth.
yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna get my wish.
Yeah.
But I think that Public Works is trying to find a compromise. So I'm holding.
I'm also going to be sending in a formal request from Keen Pride and basically all the other festivals about installing data cables and audio cables for festivals and events in all of downtown. So
Oh,
you'll see that coming.
that would be a really
Yeah.
good thing to be considering during the project
Right.
when we have everything.
Exactly. It
open.
should be a minor cost because you have everything already ripped out, I would imagine.
Well, the plans are being finalized as we speak, so
Yep.
sooner rather than
I'm going to
later.
send it out, yeah, like tonight. So.
Okay. All right. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? All right, seeing none, I would ask for a motion. Counselor Jones?
Thank you. I would move to recommend granting Keen Pride permission to use downtown city rights-of-way on Sunday, September 21, 2025, for Pride Festival, subject to the following conditions: submission of a certificate of liability insurance in the amount of $1 million, naming the city of Keene as additionally insured; execution of a standard revocable license and indemnification agreement; agreement by the petitioner to cover any city services costs exceeding the allocated city funding, and payment due within 30 days of invoicing. Licensee is permitted to place 12 total portable toilets and 1 dumpster in the city parking spaces located in the following locations: the base of Washington Street, Railroad Street, Roxbury Plaza from Friday, September 19, 2025, to Monday, September 22, 2025. The portable toilets will be chained together and affixed to ensure that they are not vandalized while unattended overnight. Submission of final letter of permission from private property owners for any use of their property, compliance with all required permits, licenses, applicable laws, and any recommendation from city staff. And it goes on.
Second.
The event footprint and layout shall include the travel portion of Central Square, Washington Street, and Vernon Street to Central Square, Court Street from Winter Street to Central Square, Roxbury Street from Roxbury Plaza, easterly side of the Hanagrams parking lot to Central Square, West Street from Federal Street to Central Square, Main Street from northbound from Emerald Street / Eagle Court to Church Street.
Up to Central Square.
Did I miss that?
Yep, you skipped a line.
That was to Central Square. Railroad Square,
Yep.
then it moves on to Railroad Square, Railroad Street from Roxbury Plaza to Church Street. Road closure may also extend to the other streets as necessary for detour routes, with final closure and detour plans determined in coordination with city staff. The event will take place from 12 p.m. to 7 is granted under city streets free parking policy. Did I
With
miss one?
setup and cleanup times.
With setup and cleanup times to be coordinated with the city staff. Free parking is granted under the city's free parking policy for designated spaces on Washington Street and Roxbury Plaza for equipment storage from September 22, 2025, as well as for the event footprint on the day of the festival.
Second?
A
Second.
motion by Counselor Jones, seconded by Counselor Madison. I think we all have a very high appreciation for our clerk who reads these, all of these motions on council nights. we split them up here at our committee so that one person doesn't have to take the brunt, but yeah, these are lengthy, so I hope you
Yes.
followed along. Do we have any questions on the motion? Counselor Madison?
Not really a question, but just another comment. You know, I've seen 4 of these festivals go down, and they've always been very well run. I've always heard great feedback from members of the community and from business owners. Everyone has a great time at these, and I'm really happy to see that, you know, while at the national level and at the state level, there's efforts to minimize this community, we're throwing an even bigger party. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm really looking forward to a 5th successful festival.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really important right now that Keene shows support for the LGBTQ community.
Anyone from the public have any questions? Seeing, oh,
Just a quick statement.
okay.
Hi there, Peter Vogel. I'm actually a resident of Sullivan, New Hampshire, 189 Center Street, but I'm here representing Monadnock Action, which is an indivisible affiliated group that's just getting started here in the area. And I wanted to second the sentiment that, you know, this is a critical time to show support for the LGBTQIA community. You know, we have identified a number of concerning legislative actions at the national and state level that threaten this community. And as we have seen, there's been really all the things that we thought were unthinkable actions by certain federal agencies a short time ago now are very quickly coming to pass. And every statement that we can make as a community in support of this this effort and to support LGBTQIA folks is critically important at this time. Symbols matter, actions matter, and you know, we've seen too many institutions, frankly, fail to stand up to protect marginalized communities and threatened communities, and this sends a powerful message. So, thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments. All right, seeing no more comments, I would ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, item 3 on our agenda this evening is a direct referral to the committee by Otto's Food and Drink, requesting for permission to serve alcohol at their sidewalk cafe. We have the petitioner with us this evening. Can you state your name and address for the minute taker?
Yes, Casey Meyer Rose. My address is 1182 Nelson Road in Nelson, New Hampshire.
Great. Can you just talk to us a little bit about your request?
Yeah, absolutely. So we submitted a letter. We have taken over the space formerly known as Machina Kitchen and Art Bar, and we think it would be a great addition to our regular service to be able to serve alcohol on our patio this summer. We're not looking to do anything really outside the lines of what has been done in that space before. We want a little bit more spacing than what we've seen previously. It's just so that there's a little bit more access to the park and stuff like that, and it's not so narrow in that area. But past that, no additional seating, no going any further, nothing like that. We want to pull everything that we can up against the building. We just want to be able to serve our community in a larger capacity for the summertime season.
Great, thank you so much for that. Do we have any comments from staff?
No, this license is coming before you because it's the first time that they will be operating in the space and offering alcohol service on their sidewalk patio. However, the location will follow a very similar process to get their sidewalk license, and all the normal requirements will be met.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions from the committee? Seeing none, anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? All right, I would be open for a motion. Counselor Haas.
Move to recommend that Otto's Food and Drink be granted permission to serve alcoholic beverages in connection with their sidewalk cafe license, subject to the customary licensing requirements of the City Council, compliance with the requirements of Section 46-1191 through 46-1196 of the City Code, and compliance with any requirements of the New Hampshire Liquor Commission. This license shall expire on March 1st, 2026.
And I second.
So we have a motion by Counselor Haas, seconded by a couple of counselors. I'll say Counselor Jones. I just have a quick question on that motion. The license is an expiry date, which is unusual.
No, it is usual
usual?
for, we put that March 1 date on all of our sidewalk patio licenses. This is just the first one for this location.
And so is this the patio license as well as the request to serve alcohol?
It
They
is
don't need
in
to be separate?
conjunction with their
We can do
patio
them
license.
together as
Yep.
one? Okay. But once you receive your permission to serve alcohol, that follows your license going
Yeah.
forward?
Correct, and then it'll just be an administrative process through the clerk, city clerk's office.
Great. All right, so does anyone else have any questions on that motion? Anyone from the public? Seeing none, I would ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the Downtown Business Group, and really excited to come and enjoy a meal. And we'll look forward to seeing the patio open.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Counselor Jones' request for a resolution honoring the LGBTQIA+ community. And Counselor Jones, you submitted a letter to us that looks like a little bit of an update to a prior resolution that we had, but would you like to give us some background and what you were hoping to accomplish?
Yes, I certainly would, thank you. I originally asked for a resolution honoring a certain community within our city. That was our full intention. We call it LGBTQIA+. Now, I understand there's another plus. It keeps, that somewhat keeps changing. I respectfully call it the alphabet soup group. And I did sit down with the city attorney and the mayor, and we thought there was a better way to go about this, honoring this community. And if you remember, back in 2021, we did this Declaration of Inclusion. This went over real well. It's still available to see downstairs, right in the lobby, as you coming out of the revenue door. It's right in front of you, hanging on the pillar. There were 30 of this went over with such acclaim. There were 30 of these requested. It's in the library, it's in the rec center, it's in the hospital, it's in the college, it's in a couple of banks, it's some senior living centers. By the way, all 30 of them, I paid for the framing. They didn't come out of city money, just so you know. And what we'd like to do is, instead of doing a resolution as I originally asked for, do a new and updated declaration. Since I did promote this, there was been a lot of stirring within the community. I've got a lot of emails expressing recommended verbiage. And so what I'm going to ask tonight is, and this isn't the motion yet, but the motion I will be making is that asking city staff to draft a new declaration of inclusion using the wordage that has been recommended to us from both the community and city councilors. And that being said, I will forward all the information that was given to me. I did meet with with other communities, other people from the communities in the city. We do have a number of emails. I would forward all of that to city staff, and perhaps I can work with city staff on creating a new product. One example would be, we used the word lifestyles, and we'd like to change that to call it sexual orientation and gender identity, so there's more access on that community. So there's really nothing for us to do tonight except ask staff to commit to writing the new declaration, and at the time it comes back to us, then we can wordsmith it. Just remember, these mediums, there's different mediums you can use. There's a proclamation which is just written in signed by the mayor. There's a resolution which we as a council must adopt, and then it's only signed by the mayor. This is a whole different avenue. It's not codified, a declaration. It's something that's here to stay. We vote on it as a body, and every voting member that feels comfortable is welcome to undersign the declaration. That's our intention. So I'm going to let this open to the public before I do make the motion, okay?
Great, thank you. Does anyone from the committee want to get us started with any comments, or do we want to go straight to the public? All right, I would love to hear from the public. Oh, Councilor Haas, sorry, I missed you.
I'll wave faster. Thank you, Madam Chair. So Councilor Jones, you're proposing that we revise the plaques that are posted everywhere and circulate new ones?
No, they represent a declaration of intent from a certain time, a period of time. The declarations don't change. It would just be a new declaration that we would put out there.
So is that in the form of a plaque or one of the other avenues that you mentioned?
No, we would actually ask the clerk's office to once again, just like this one, do it on the parchment-looking paper and be framed. And then if other people ask for copies of it, I could do what I did last time and get the framed copies to them.
Or
Excellent, thank you.
I would imagine we could also offer the current holders of declarations the updated copy, and we could use their original frame, because it would maintain the character of the original declaration as well, and have this as more inclusionary language.
If they so wish, or they can have both, whatever.
could have
That's
both?
up to them, yeah. It doesn't take away the old declaration. They can't be amended, they're not codified, so they stay forever. So if somebody so wishes to reframe and put in the new one, they can.
Okay. Do we have anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? Yes, starting here.
Mohammed Saleh, part of the Human Rights Committee. I want to thank and applaud Councillor Jones for taking a very timely step to revise the declaration. This is a very difficult time. A lot of people are feeling marginalized. To the intent to revise it to be more inclusionary and also empowering, so that some of the phrasing do not try to hide behind social prejudice or so forth, is very admirable. I would like to request if a draft of the resolution or could be made available to the Human Rights Committee for a review, as we are all working together to make sure that every nuance is addressed and it's most powerful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Jones.
Mohammed, that's just so you know, I did attempt to meet with the Human Rights Committee on Monday, but unfortunately, they didn't have a quorum to review this. But after staff drafts this, I can come back.
Yes,
and meet with them.
I am aware of that. It's unfortunate we couldn't meet Monday. So thank you for making the attempt. And I realize that you are already trying that, but I just wanted to make it official that I would like to see that.
Yes.
And if I remember, Mohammed, with the last declaration, you were one of the first ones to get a copy of it.
Yes, and thank you. And it's in my office. I am very thankful for all the great work you're doing, and the whole council too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Adam.
Hello again, Adam Tepfer, President Keene Pride. I think that's great. Is it a declaration you said? Is that what it's called? I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great idea. I think I would like to expand upon that. I think we should be going further than that. I would really like to see Keene become a sanctuary city for the LGBTQ community, LGBTQ+. To say people in my community are scared would be an understatement. People are terrified. Every day I see it. I own Madame Cherie's. People are absolutely terrified with what's going on. They don't know what's going to happen to them. And I know we can't control anything right now. That's what's happening in Washington, and maybe not even at the state level, but we can do something here in town. And I think creating a sanctuary city for the LGBTQ plus community would show a really big, warm welcome to the LGBTQ community, and would be a symbol that shows that Keene supports the community. That's just what I wanted to say. Okay?
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. Anyone else wishing to speak to us tonight? Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Councilor Jones for bringing this forward. I think to incorporate into the declaration language that is a part of our state statute on non-discrimination is a valuable source to reference for some of the wording. And I think the councilor has picked up on two terms that are a part of the state's Anti-Discrimination Act. I would also point out that age is not a part of the 2021 resolution. It needs also to be incorporated to be as inclusive of groups as the state statute is, minimally. And so I think that the action that is contemplated tonight to ask the city attorney to come back with appropriate language to update this declaration, I think is a good step tonight. It doesn't insist that we do this in the next week or 2 weeks. It does lay a path for this to come back to the city council and to this committee. I presume that would likely be the course for a final wording that could then be recommended to the city council and be taken from there for signature, just as Councilor Jones suggested. So I think the route that's being suggested tonight is appropriate. It gives us time to take these suggestions that are coming from members of the Human Rights Committee and other members of the public to incorporate those into a draft that can come back to the committee. I think these are good steps. And to make sure that we try to update the language appropriately to the times and to the constituencies that we don't want to ignore.
Great, thank you for those comments too. Councilor Jones?
I just want to follow up on something the mayor said. This is not time sensitive, so I'd rather be very careful with our wording, get it right, and I look forward to this coming back to us.
Councilor Haas?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just in talking about the route and the process to save people's time, are we talking about something from city attorney to go to Human Rights Committee and work with something there and then come back to us, or what's a path for all of this to happen?
So I started to contemplate that a little bit as well. Is it possible to just put this on more time while that work happens, and that way we can let it be at the PLD level and bring it through the attorney's office into Human Rights Committee, come back to us, and then we could actually have a recommendation for the council?
Yes, it wouldn't, like, through that process, it's not going to leave here and go to Human Rights. That would be something that either Councilor Jones or someone else would have to go seek their input on outside of your process, because it's just going to stay here on more time, but that could totally work if that's how you
Okay.
want it.
I mean, I think that makes the most sense to me, rather than it having to go through a council cycle before any of this work begins. I think we can just have it stay right here, and we can come back and clarify the language and send it up to council for a full recommendation. That works. Councilor Jones?
I would agree, and I would work the logistics. I have no problem with that. And putting on more time is okay, as long as the directions to staff are understood.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else from the public have anything? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion. Councilor Madison? It's an easy one for you. There's no recommended motion.
More time.
We're recommending
More time.
refer it more time? Okay. recommend to place, move, move to place the resolution honoring the LGBTQIA plus community on more time.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Counselor Madison, seconded by Counselor Haas. So this is, oh, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Just, if I heard, he's about to say something, I think that
I'm gonna
this
say
is a
same thing you were gonna say.
declaration that's being recommended and not a resolution, just for the wording.
I think that that's how it reads on our agenda, which is why Counselor Madison identified it that way. But the intent of the conversation here is for the attorney to draft language updating a declaration that Counselor Jones will present to the Human Rights Committee and bring back to us in a draft format. Does that sound correct? Yes?
That'll work, as long as the background notes show.
Okay, all right. Anyone else have any questions on that motion? Seeing none, I would ask for a vote. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Our next item is with the withdrawal of ordinance O-2024-18 relating to licenses and permits. And this was an ordinance that was brought into us by the clerk's office, and I believe the city manager is going to address it with us tonight.
Yes, I am pitch hitting for the clerk's
Yes, you
office
are.
tonight. So this ordinance was brought forward with the clerk, the city clerk and the public works director back in October of 2024. And this is in anticipation of the downtown construction project. There was concern at the time that we needed to create some additional restrictions in the ordinance that would authorize the public works director to decide that because of the construction project, that they would not issue licenses for part of the year or potentially all of the construction season. And that met with resistance here at the PLD committee, and the PLD committee directed the staff to go back and look at the language again to see if we could be a bit more flexible and come up with some additional options for dealing with sidewalk licenses during the construction phase. And so they have done that, and because the clerk's office is so great about keeping track of everything on our agenda, this was sitting on your more time. And so to dispense with it, they are saying that the recommended course of action is to withdraw the ordinance this evening. And as a follow-up, there has been a meeting and outreach to the license holders. And on April 7th, there was the first meeting where the Public Works Director went over how he thought the sidewalk licenses would work during different phases of construction. And so during the active construction, so Phase 1 is around Central Square, but parts of Central Square will be under active construction. So let's say one block is being worked on for a period of 3 weeks. That would be the active construction zone, and there would be no license permits allowed there because the ground would be disturbed. However, in other areas of the construction phase around Central Square, there could be permits. But the license holders would need to understand that there will be dust, there will be noise, and there will be disruption. But if they want to do that, there is an opportunity to have a license. And so they are planning to limit, and they will announce the active construction zone areas 7 days in advance. To give the license holders time, and they would add some additional language to the license that would allow us to be able to, if there was some sort of emergency or some sort of break in the water line, that we could disrupt that period of time, but that they would be able to operate within a licensed footprint. And the city would be able to modify that licensed footprint as conditions require in order to allow for public use of the sidewalk and ADA, which basically means it may not look exactly like it looks today, that there may need to be some adjustments to the areas that are being licensed, but that we would be able to work with them. And the typical requirements for cafe fencing, sidewalk clearances, access to egress doors all remain the same. All of those things would still need to be enforced. But this would provide the additional flexibility that I think PLD was looking for, and it leaves the option of whether or not they would like to operate in that phase of construction up to the business owner that typically gets their license for the season. So during this meeting on April 7th, during this part of the conversation, there really were no concerns addressed. There were other concerns addressed later in the meeting, which had more to do with the design and probably will be discussed further at MSFI, and that has to do with how sidewalk licenses look after construction. Licenses right now on the approved design that has moved forward and has been in this way for at least a year and a half. Right now, sidewalk cafes and other outdoor commerce opportunities are to be licensed against the building. And so some of the license holders were not happy about that. And so I do think that that will be a further conversation, but for you, in regards to licensing, we found a way to be as flexible as possible during the construction phase and to allow some flexibility of sidewalk licenses and outdoor commerce during construction.
So, as far as our action this evening, I believe the city attorney can correct me, but we don't need to take any action. The clerk can withdraw this petition directly.
I would like it to go to the full council, so I would like you to take some vote to just accept the withdrawal and then just have them
Can we
carry out
just
the
accept it
intent.
as informational?
You could do that as well.
Okay. So I would like to say thank you. I know that you're not the clerk's office and you're representing them, but for the staff's willingness to hear us and be flexible and think outside the box and all of the things that we were hoping to see when we talked to you guys about this initial iteration when it came to us. We're never gonna make everyone happy, and the phases of construction are gonna vary. And I think just being open to the idea of being able to operate in some capacity will be helpful to certain business owners downtown. So I really do applaud the staff for coming up with a creative way and working toward having an ombudsman that's going to work in conjunction with these business owners to make sure that these things happen and all this information is disseminated smoothly. It's really important that this helps the project be received in a positive way.
Yeah, thank you. I do think that the Public Works Director with the clerk's office did come up with a good compromise that offers as much flexibility as possible while also maintaining safety in the downtown.
Okay. So do we have anyone from the public wishing to speak about this withdrawal? Anyone from the committee have any questions? Bobby, I don't know if you'd be open to a motion as informational?
I move to accept ordinance O 2024-18 as informational.
With the withdrawal.
With the withdrawal of ordinance O 2024-18 as informational.
Second.
I have a motion by Counselor Williams, seconded by Counselor Jones. Any questions? Seeing anyone from the public? Seeing none, I would ask for a vote. All in favor? And that one is unanimous as well. So we've made it all the way to the end. Our last item tonight is relating to adopting the provisions of RSA 79-E Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentives, Resolution R-2025-09. And it looks like we have our Med Kopczynski here to give us an update on this item.
Thank you. It's been a while since I've been here.
I know.
I know.
Welcome.
I do plan to rectify that a little bit and be in front of you a little bit more often. The city manager has actually tasked me with a number of different projects related to housing opportunities, some of which you're aware of, many of which you're not.
That's exciting.
And hopefully you will become aware of them. One of the tasks that I was given was to take a look at 79E, and there's two sections of 79E that we may, as a community, want to adopt, and that's 79E4B and E4C, but I'm not here to talk about them. It's just the genesis of why we're here. We actually have an RFP opening next week on that for a HOP grant that we received to potentially hire a consultant to help us with that, and we'll see how that pans out next week. What I'm here to talk to you about is a mapping issue. As I began looking at what we have for 79E and all the documentation, one of the things I noticed was the map that we were using was out of date. And the map that is actually in our documents, present documents, reflects the old downtown zoning,
I see.
right?
Okay.
So the map update that you have tonight really changes the old downtown zoning designations to the new LDC zoning designations. If you look on the map itself, you'll see that there's a date of 2024. The clerk's office and Will Schaffman are already working on changing that. So by the time it gets to the actual vote at the city council, the map will be reflective of the proper year. I started this journey back in September. It just took this long to get here, and I apologize for that, but circumstances being what they were. So really, this should be a very easy exercise. It's really updating the map. It doesn't require anything more than that from the council itself. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about it or any questions about 79E.
Great, thank you so much. I think that this is a great program that we have available here in the city, and I understand that there's some potential for it to expand, and I'm excited to hear more about that in the future. But getting the housekeeping things cleaned up is important too. Do we have questions from the committee? Counselor Jones?
Med, when we first introduced this in 2017, it was more for corporate and industrial. And since then, hasn't 799E morphed where now you can use it towards commercial and mixed use?
It was originally a historic building preservation statute. It was really meant to provide an opportunity for people who had historic buildings to be able to renovate them and put aside any tax implications that might be in conjunction with the city council. And different communities have used that differently. Some of them designate an area, some of them designate the entire community. You're correct that the statute itself has morphed through the years. It has changed through the years. It wasn't originally designed for housing per se. Now it's got housing components. So you're correct. I don't doubt that you'll see more changes in 79E as the legislature works on some of these issues. You know, housing, of course, is the big issue of the day.
Yes, Counselor Jones?
But have we kept up with our ordinance with the state? Are we, as the state has changed, have we been changing our ordinances?
The answer is, if you look at 79E 4B and 4C, the answer would be no. Those are two sections of the statute that we have not adopted. You do need to specifically adopt it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I will just
Yes.
reiterate, which is the project that we're currently getting ready to undertake through the Community Development Office. We have the RFP that we'll be getting back. We'll be looking at how we might be able to take advantage of some of those other opportunities.
Great. Any more questions? Counselor Haas?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think using 79E wherever we can is a great thing, and we should press forward with it and look for opportunities in the future. I just have one clarification on the resolution as it's presented. Item 9 on the list of items for the qualifying structures references home energy score. I presume that's US DOE Better Buildings scoring. We should just clarify exactly what that is.
Yeah, there's an actual application package that goes along with that and explains all the different sections that they're looking for as a method of scoring for recommendations to the city council, if that answers your question.
So just also, I don't know if I'm hearing your question correctly also, Counselor Haas. This is already an adopted program that we have in the community currently. And because of the way this is being presented to us, there's no red line version. What you're seeing here is the adopted version. The only change would be the map.
And that is
Does that
correct.
help clarify a little bit?
Never mind.
Okay.
That's still a good question.
It's a great question.
Someone else will ask.
Counselor Williams?
I like the 79E project, or program, but I can only recall a couple of 79E projects that we've ever voted on.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do to make it more popular?
Yes, we can get the consultant to expand the program, I think, is what I would assume is going to be the direction we'll see.
Yeah,
I know there's some projects that are floating around currently that could take advantage of it in its current form. But the expansion of it, if we expand the map where it's available and we're allowed to use it to offer tax relief to people who are rehabbing older housing stock, I think that we'll see more people coming to us and requesting use. But we need some language that gives us some guidance on how to do that correctly.
Yeah. The economic development side of me says we should advertise it more, one way or another.
Also true.
Because I don't think people really know about it
Well-
unless we're in a conversation and we say something like, oh, did you think that this might be helpful? You
I
know,
think Med just talked himself into a social media update with ASA.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions, Counselor Madison?
Thank you. So if I understand this correctly, the current update we're looking at is to increase the amount of housing stock
The-
that'll be eligible for 79E.
Not correct. So
That's disappointing.
it is, but that is coming. So there's a consultant that's being hired to draft language to create that update. This update allows for the current language to be applied to our actual zoning map, because right now, the zoning map identifies the old downtown zones and old zoning that was in the greater downtown area versus our form-based zones.
Okay, I think that explains it a little better. I'm still kind of at a loss why high density isn't included in it. Because it seems like that, reading the actual ordinance itself reading what you've put before us, the resolution, it seems like high density would fit in with the spirit of 79E, but it's just not in there because it's called high density and not downtown. Even though a lot of these properties are just mere, a couple 100 feet from Central Square, but we also have, and are ineligible, but we also have properties that are close to a mile from Central Square and Main Street, but are eligible. It seems like it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Right. So, tonight's exercise is really to change the map.
Yeah.
But however, I don't disagree with your point, and that's one of the reasons why we are looking to have a consultant. 79E in its original form really talked about designating a downtown, right? So when we originally did the work back when, Phil Jones remembers in 2017, it was really related to the downtown as we knew it at that point in time. Central Business District, Central Business Limited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was expanded during the term of Mayor Hansel to include the Marlborough Street corridor as an extension of downtown. Now, some communities have taken their entire district, their entire community, and said it is going to be useful for 79E. These are the discussions that we need to have. I think you could make a reasonable case that high density clearly is one for both the residential property revitalization zone section of 79E, which is one of the sections we'll talk about, or just 79E properly. You could make a case that some of our districts, our plain housing districts, should be included in 79E4C, which is just plain housing development, if you want to look at it that way. There's districts that are commerce that I think probably the changes we've made to Commerce District, especially on West Street, arguably is an extension of downtown. So there's some of these conversations that I do think we need to have, and I do look forward to them because they're gonna be vigorous and I think useful for the long-term health of the community. So 79E is gonna be a useful tool for both building renovation, right? but also for the expansion of housing, both housing vertically and also housing in things like housing tracts, potentially if we in fact embrace some of these other sections of 79E.
City manager?
Just real quick. And Med hit on it. 79E, in the first line of the RSA 79E, it is declared to be a public benefit to enhance downtowns and town centers with respect to economic activity. So that is the original 79E that we adopted. These other changes came later that we have not yet adopted. And so I do think that going through this process to understand how we might want to adopt them and how that lines up on the map with what we've already adopted will be a very worthwhile effort.
Yes, and I agree with Councilor Madison, like, we are excited to see this get expanded, I think. So I know that's gonna be a process if we're looking to have a consultant help us with that, move along, but I think that there's a huge opportunity to, the cost of renovation at this day, in this day and age, and it's only going up, is so astronomical, and to provide any sort of tax relief to people who are trying to improve in a great way a property adjacent to downtown, or even if we expand into some of the commercial areas, it's only going to bring longevity to our community. So I think it's a win for the community.
Before, ADUs. That's a tool that we haven't really been able to use because the cost to build an ADU, even with all of the changes, I recently looked at this, it's so expensive to build an ADU, even in your existing structures, your garages or whatever the case may be. And so maybe there's a potential when we look at how we're going to apply this, that we might be able to create a program that helps to offset some of that initial expense and meet some of our other housing goals.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I don't think as a community, we really talk a lot about the cost of things, When I have these discussions at the state level, and we talk about ADUs, and we talk about this, we talk about that, the refrain, which a lot of people are getting tired of me saying, is it's still $350 a square foot to build it. We got to attack the cost, right?
And the value.
And, well,
post-built.
cost and the value. But what 79E does is it allows you to work with your funding stack a little bit. And it might actually make the difference in whether a project goes forward or not. So it is important.
Yes, agreed.
Okay.
So back to the initial thing that's before us tonight is the update to the map with the expectation that we'll see future updates coming forward. And I'm glad we are opening this conversation so that we're all getting ready for the future conversations. Does anyone have any further questions on that? Yes, Councilor Williams?
I just, not about the map, but about the process going forward, that there's a consultant that's gonna do some work. Is that through state funding, or what are we, and how is that impacted by what's going on with the budget right now?
So we have the authorization to move forward with this grant. It's a small amount of money. I don't remember exactly how much it is, but it's from the Housing Opportunity funds that were originally available. We had applied for a couple of different initiatives. One was to look at short-term rentals, and that did not get approved, but this project did in fact get approved through the state already, and so far it hasn't been pulled back or anything like that, so I think we're good to go.
That's good. I have heard some concern that the Housing Champions Fund wasn't gonna get any further money, so.
I've heard the same thing. There aren't new funds included for the Housing Champion program right now. We'll have to monitor that as it moves forward.
As an aside, InvestNH is looking forward to this work that we're doing if it in fact goes forward. They want to glom onto the information and the processing itself, because nobody in the state has really looked at it quite this way, ever hired a consultant to really dig in this way. So once again, we're setting precedent.
I love that for us.
Yeah.
Councilor Jones?
I just want to add something to something you said, Med. I've been teaching consultative selling for a long time, and I met with this gentleman who does real estate, who does industrial and business real estate, and he said, well, what can I do? I said, you could be the expert on 79E and ERZ. I said, you're gonna win plenty of bonus points with your customers. I said, be the one in the know. And I think that's what everyone in this community should be doing. Thank you.
Any other comments? Anyone from the public? Seeing none, I would ask for a vote. I've lost track of who.
We did
Oh,
make a
I'm sorry, I would ask for a motion, but I've lost track of who we're,
I guess it's up to me. We're going, I would accept this. I
nope,
moved-
we're gonna move to adopt, I think.
Move to adopt
Uh,
resolution.
Then, go ahead, someone else take it.
Okay, go ahead, Counselor Williams. Thank you.
Move to recommend the adoption of Resolution R 2025-09.
And I second.
A motion by Counselor Williams, seconded by Counselor Madison. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, I would ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. So we made it all the way to the end of our long agenda tonight. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us, and this meeting is adjourned.